Lizzie sat in her seat and looked outside the window. She watched the other cars go by and marveled at them. They all were so lucky. They were not on their way to therapy. They were all off to exciting places. Exciting places being anywhere else. Lizzie crossed her arms and looked at her mother. She did not have to take her to see Harriet. She just wanted to torture her. Lizzie shifted in her seat. Sandra looked at her daughter in the rear-view mirror. "Now don't pout," she explained. "It won't be that bad." "Won't be that bad," Lizzie thought. "It will be terrible." Soon, way too soon for Lizzie's taste, they were pulling up in front of Harriet's office. Lizzie unbuckled her seatbelt and was about to open the door when her mother spoke up. "Babies do not unbuckle their seatbelts and open their own doors," she commented matter-of-factly. Lizzie sat back down and crossed her arms again. Sandra got out of the car and went to the back of it. Lizzie tried to see what her mother was doing but saw nothing till a moment later when Sandra came around the corner of the car pushing a stroller. Lizzie could not believe what she saw. Her mother was gonna take her into Harriet's office in a stroller, no less. Part of Lizzie was overjoyed. After all, she loved being a baby and this just added to the pleasure that was this summer. Part of her was little scared as she might run into someone they know. Still, Lizzie remembered what her mother said. "You wanted to be a baby." And she did with all her heart. Lizzie then jumped out of the car and into the stroller. It felt different than she thought it would and was surprised that it fit her. Sandra pushed her daughter into the waiting room of Harriet's office. She then sat opposite of her daughter and looked her straight in the eye. "I know you do not want to be here. But this is for your own good. Harriet can help you sort through some of your feelings about things and can help you become the person you want to be," she told Lizzie. "But only if you are completely honest with her." Lizzie continued to suck her pacifier and just nodded her head. Sandra reached into the stroller and gave her daughter a big hug. Truth be told, she was not sure how Harriet was gonna help the situation. When they had talked a week ago, Harriet seemed to think that she could help her daughter get over this ridiculous idea of being a baby. Sandra sure hoped so. Still, looking at her daughter made her wonder if Lizzie would ever be out of diapers and a normal teen like everyone else in her class. The two of them looked around waiting for Harriet to come out of her inner office. After a few minutes, Harriet came out and greeted them. Soon Lizzie was pushed into Harriet's inner office and with an embarrassing kiss on the cheek left in the room alone with her. Harriet looked at Lizzie. She looked normal. In fact, she looked as normal as she always had over the past few years that Harriet had known her family. Harriet shook her head and sat down at her desk. "So, how are you doing?" she asked. "Okay, I guess," Lizzie responded. "Just okay." "Yeah. So what's your week been like?" "What do you mean?" "Well, if I remember correctly, you have been a baby for the past week. Correct?" "Yes." "So what's it been like?" It was then that Lizzie understood the question. She started to talk about the events of the past week. She talked about how it felt to be back into diapers and to needing to be changed. She talked about eating baby food and sitting in a high chair. With each statement, Harriet seemed to have more questions. Each question was easy to answer cause they were all about the past week. It was a simple session, truth be told. It was nearing the end of the hour when Harriet dropped the big question. "Any idea on why you wanted to be a baby again?" she asked. "Not really. It's just something that I have wanted for the past year or two," Lizzie answered honestly. She truthfully had no idea why the desire was there other than she really wanted to get what she was getting and was looking forward to the rest of summer. "Well, we are out of time for today," Harriet informed her. "I'll see you again in a week, okay?" "I guess," Lizzie told her. Harriet then pushed the stroller out into the waiting room. Sandra stood up and taking the stroller from Harriet began to leave the building. "See you next week," Harriet stated as they walked out the door. Sandra was not so sure. Harriet had good intentions, but it seemed a little silly to bring her daughter in to see her. Still, she thought it seemed silly to be putting diapers on her 13-year-old as well. They had just gotten Lizzie sitting in the car and was putting the stroller away when a familiar voice rang out. "Sandra."